Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. I want to thank David Steele, former Gator, voice of the Gators, for our introduction. Keith says on here, please send me that intro soundtrack. I don't know what you're talking about, Keith. I guess I've talked to my producer. I don't know. I don't ever hear the show. Okay, my producer just told me it's a Swamp remix. It's on YouTube. He's going to put the link in the YouTube and Facebook comments or what have you, and maybe that'll help you out. It's Thursday. That means we have our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter, Brent Beaird. If you missed it, I tried to get some of our basketball beat reporters on today. I had a late night watching the damn Country Music Awards and forgot to text them. And so we signed a 7'6" guy, tallest guy in the country out of IMG. I think he's a Canadian. We talked about him a couple of weeks ago. So he's committed to Tide Golden. Brent, you're on the Titan More hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. How you doing, my man?
Well, I'm doing okay. It's a big weekend for college football. I had a chance to speak to the St. Augustine Gator Club this past Tuesday night. Really enjoyed that group. That they were a lot of fun, and we talked about the Gator prospects not only for this week but the upcoming week, and also more probably for next year than anything else. And they are excited about having Shane Matthews come speak to them next week.
Yeah, I've never been over there to speak, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. And we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully we'll have something good to talk about next week, Brent.
Yeah.
Didn't have a whole lot this year. Greg says signed or he's verbally committed. I shouldn't have said signed. Maybe I did. I didn't mean to. But he is 7'6". Brent, you ever met anybody 7'6"?
No, that's really impressive. And if he is, I tell you, these 7-footers now can step out and hit a three. And I mean, they're more than just rebounders. So hopefully he has a lot of athleticism to go along with the size.
Yeah, no question. All right, Brent, let's jump into it. Before we, and I know you got in your notes here, but I just want to get your thoughts on what's going on with the University of Michigan football team with the allegations of cheating, and they have all kinds of information. And now Ohio State's got some kind of lawsuit going, I think. I can't keep up with it. What's going on?
Well, in essence, what's going on here is every school except Michigan wants Michigan to be punished. They're putting pressure on the commissioner to try to do something with that. Now, Dan Wetzel has come out and said that not only has Michigan broke this rule, but so is Purdue. They use advanced scouting to steal a future opponent's signals. So he's wondering why they're only concerned about Michigan. Look, and Shane said this a few weeks ago, this stuff goes on everywhere. It's getting a little more advanced and technical than it used to be. But here's the bottom line with this. Michigan is doing everything they can to, and I get this, to delay any kind of decision on this, as far as some of these schools want Michigan to be suspended from the playoffs, or Harbaugh suspended for the rest of the year, or both. Michigan wants their due diligence from the NCAA, which means about a 1.5-year investigation. So they're basically just trying to get through the playoff this year. Here's the bottom line for this, and I don't want to be cynical about it, but it's just the way it is. What I think is going to happen here is, eventually this will be dealt with, but I think it will be after the regular season and the playoffs, because let's just be honest about this. Michigan right now probably is heading toward beating Penn State and Ohio State and getting into the playoffs. And frankly, the Big Ten is not going to admit this, but they don't want to lose the money that they may get on Michigan going to the national championship game. So, and Shane, that's just an honest appraisal of what's going on. There'll be a lot of talk about this. It's on everybody's minds, and starts a lot of shows. But I think that's what's going to happen. Is somehow Michigan, they will delay this. Michigan will be able to finish the season, get in the playoffs likely, and we go from there.
Yeah. I think a lot of people around the country will probably be hoping Penn State can finally find a way to beat somebody worth a darn.
Yeah.
And beat Michigan this weekend. Brent, the playoff rankings are out. There's a lot of people complaining. Is it your resume? Is it what we saw the last week?
No.
What are your thoughts? Do you have any issues? Let's just say with the top four, do you have any issues going on right now?
No, the top four is going to be basically what it is until they play each other. I mean, the reality is Ohio State's going to play Michigan, and Georgia is going to play Ole Miss and Tennessee and possibly Alabama. The Pac-12 is going to end up, they've got their championship game. Texas, number 7, that they could be in the championship game too. So there's just too much left to play out here to get overly excited about this right now.
Yeah. Andy has a question on Facebook Live brought to you by Mellon Law. It says, Brent, do you think the semis need to run the table and win the ACC to get into the playoffs? If the Gators can beat them, shouldn't they be out? I think if they lose a game, they're done.
I agree with that. Yes. So do I. I mean, right now, you've got FSU at number 4, but the reality is, FSU, they've got Miami this weekend. They've got North Alabama, which is the school where my brother is near, up in North Alabama. And then they've got Florida. So the strength of schedule from all those schools are not going to help them very much. And then obviously they've got the ACC championship game. But I would agree with that. And right now that looks like that's probably going to be the Louisville. And Shane, you and I both know that Louisville can be a real problem for anybody. So there's still a lot left to play, but I would agree. I think FSU can run the table, and I think they probably will run the table at this point. But there's still some injury questions, and we'll look at FSU and Miami and examine that in a few minutes.
When it's all said and done, there's a chance Florida State will not have beaten a team that ends up the season ranked.
Yeah. Well, that unfortunately, because of the conference they play in, that is a problem. That's correct.
Yeah. They better look out when they roll into here, and they better look out about the Louisville Cardinal because they're pretty damn good. The Cardinals can throw the football. Don asked on Facebook Live, so the rumor is that the Gators are getting a new OC. That's what everybody wants, and we'll get into this. But Brent, I have been telling people for the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks, offense ain't our problem.
Yeah.
It's defense and special teams. The University of Florida in 3 straight games has given up 39 or more points. First time since 1917. I mean, think about that.
Right.
I don't understand why people are so caught up on this offensive coordinator thing. I really don't get it. Richard says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Shane, I was considering contributing to the NIL, but after buying a pulled pork sandwich and a soft drink at the game, I can't afford it. I'm curious what that cost you there, Richard. I'm going to guess because I don't go to the concession stand, but I'm going to guess you bought a Coke or whatever, a pulled pork sandwich. I bet it was at least $25 is my guess.
Yeah.
Let us
I
know.
was going to say between 20 and 25, but look, that Shane, I was in Alabama, Tennessee, but believe me, wherever you are in the SEC, the prices at the concession stands are about the same, and you're right, they're not cheap.
Yeah, exactly. Brent, there's some good games this week, obviously around the country, a couple in our conference. Does one stand out more than the other to you?
Well, it is a really good week. I mean, everybody's going to be on Michigan, Penn State. I still think Michigan wins. I don't have a lot of faith in Penn State, but being able to win a big game with James Franklin, this is the team to do it. Both these defenses are really good. I think Ole Miss can give Georgia a lot of problems. Still think Georgia wins. Utah-Washington is a very interesting game, but I think attrition's gotten to Utah at this point. USC and Oregon play. That might be 51-45 before that's over because USC certainly is not going to have any defense. Tennessee, Missouri is a really good game because the winner of that game may end up in the non-playoff Big Six type bowl game, and then you've got Miami, Florida State, and then Texas, TCU. Texas is better than TCU, but I'll throw this out real quick, Shane. What used to be is not anymore. Have you heard a lot of people talking about Miami, Florida State, or has it been pretty quiet?
Been very quiet. Very
right.
Quiet. Yeah. Yeah. Nobody's talking about it. I want to go back to this Facebook Live that it was actually $23 he spent, so I went over the price. I would have lost at Price is Right. It was $23 for his pork sandwich. John says, "Are you kidding that they are going to have a tough time in the swamp?" Look, Florida State's a good team, but if you go and you really look at their games that they've played, they have not dominated anybody. They've struggled on the road in the ACC, Brent.
Yeah, they have. I agree. And listen, I told the group the other night in the St. Augustine Gator Club, I think Florida wins one of these last three. I just think they're able to put it together enough to do that. And I've told a lot of people, and look, all you've got to do is look at the history between these two teams. Florida plays them really well in Gainesville. And I would expect the same thing with that. Now, the other thing that we're looking at here is Florida State's receivers. Johnny Wilson has played this week in practice. We think he'll play. Keon Coleman's the guy you're looking at. They're kind of coy about that. So that's going to be one thing to look at. So, but look, anything can happen in a rivalry game. People forget that. And teams are really, the reason the underdog wins a lot of these rivalry games is for one of the few times of the year, the underdogs is extremely focused on what they're trying to do. That's why we have some of these upsets.
Yeah, for sure. Brent, USC out on the West Coast, finally, Lincoln Riley dismissed Alex Granchu. I want to say he's been his DC ever since he's been a head coach, correct?
Yeah, he's a good one. He's a good one, too. Here's the problem at USC, and I'll make this simple. They just don't Riley does not put a priority on defensive players. That's just the bottom line. And until he does that, Shane, they can hire you and I to be the defense coordinator, and it's not going to matter until they get the players they need there. So, I mean, obviously they got one of Georgia's better linemen in Bear Alexander, but that's only one guy on that front. So, and see, the reason USC was better last year was they had like 22 takeaways on defense, and the odds of doing that again this year were very minuscule, and that they've got about less than half of those this year. So, but again, until Riley decides he wants to recruit better defensive players, they're going to be in all these 51 to 50 games during the season.
Yep. Todd says, I really want to believe you and hope we do beat FSU. But we were saying the same about Arkansas before they came and proved us wrong. Look, I'm just telling you folks that don't probably just look at the scores. Go watch the Florida State games. Are they a good football team? Absolutely. Jordan Travis is having a great year. But they have struggled with weak opponents in the ACC. And yeah, we lost to Arkansas last week, but we should not have. That was a fluke. And I still to this day, it pisses me off how we lost that game. It was an operational mistake by our entire coaching staff. Like I told you, the quarterback had it in complete control. Every game is different. You don't know who's going to show up. You don't know if the ball is going to bounce your way. It just amazes me how people just give up because we've lost some games, haven't looked great. I mean, anything can happen in college football.
Yes.
All right, Brent. Alabama coming off their big win, traveling to Lexington. I don't remember the last time Alabama played Kentucky at home. What you got about this game?
Well, this is a character game for Alabama. All the ingredients are there for a problem. I mean, it's a noon game, so that will they be sleepwalking through this game? They could be flat as a pancake emotionally after the LSU win, and they have had a tendency this year to struggle in the first half. Now they've really picked it up defensively in the second half. Look, the most valuable player or most valuable person for Alabama this year is Kevin Steele, the defensive coordinator. What they've done in the second half, frankly, has been remarkable. I mean, against their biggest opponents, this is like A&M, Tennessee, LSU. They've only allowed combined 13 points in the second half. So Jalen Milroe is actually beginning to look like a quarterback. He ran for 155 yards. That made a difference. Alabama ran the ball for over 200 yards in the game, and they took advantage of LSU and the struggles that they've got on defense. But Shane, you've seen this Kentucky team. They're physical. Devin Leary is getting a bit better. He played really well against Tennessee in a losing effort. I mean, the Davis kid at running back's impressive. Berrien Brown is a sophomore. Has done well. Tavian Robinson. I mean, Bama's a better team. I think they'll win the game, but it won't surprise me if that thing's, I don't know, 17-14 at halftime or something like that. And Alabama is able to pull away in the second half. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Alan asked about recruiting for defense. We have the #1 recruiting class in America right now, Alan. Brent and I don't follow recruiting, but I'll tell you that. Tim says the entire coaching staff or the student running special. It was the coaching staff. They are in charge of the football team. They are in charge of situational football, and they blew it. I don't know how else to tell you. That's the facts. Andy wants to know, and I'll answer this as well. He says, Brent, who has the best shot to beat Georgia, Ole Miss or Tennessee?
I think Ole Miss does. Look, I've seen Joe Milton in person at Tennessee. Joe Milton is not beating Georgia. That's just the way it is. Because at some point, you've got to be able to throw the ball. Jackson Dart is much better at throwing the ball than Milton is. Now, Milton is becoming a better runner, and he's becoming more of a run threat. And the other thing is, Ole Miss has got a kid named Trey Harris at wide receiver who is one of the best in the league. So they've got to deal with that. But again, the reality is, now Tennessee has a better defense than Ole Miss does, but I frankly think Ole Miss has a better chance of beating Georgia than the Vols do.
I don't think either one of them do. Quite honestly, I don't think either one of them are physical enough. I would lean Tennessee because it's in Knoxville. I do think Ole Miss will score a little bit, but I don't think they've seen physicality like they're going to see Saturday. This is interesting. Brandon says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mount Law. Shane, I saw a stat yesterday that against Arkansas, Florida punted 5 of the 6 drives that Trey Wilson did not touch the ball. Look, if anybody listens to my show, you know my starting 11. Well, I'm not worried about the lineman because I can't control that. But it's Eugene Wilson III, it's Arliss Boardingham, it's Ricky Pearsall, and it's either Aiden Mizell, Andy Jean, or somebody that can flat out run. And then I got the 2 running backs.
Yes.
And I would get number 3 and number 1 isolated on the single receiver side as much as I could every freaking play. All right, Brent, talk about the LSU Florida game. You know what's interesting? If we make that field goal or we don't have the debacle, that's what I call it, debacle at the end of the game, both these teams would have been rolling into the Tiger Stadium at 6-3.
Yeah. Well, and people will be looking at that in different ways. They'd be looking at LSU probably as a disappointment. They'd be looking at Florida as a surprise. So I think that's a really good point. Now, the big thing with LSU obviously is going to be is Jaden Daniels going to play after the concussion with Alabama. Now, there's the thought worried that he is. Now, Nussmeier's a pretty good backup quarterback, one of the better ones, frankly, in the league. Now, is he better than Jaden Daniels? No, because Daniels gives you if he plays, I'm going to be really I value your opinion, and I'm going to be very interested to know what you think of him. But listen, when Daniels when he tucks it and runs, he doesn't run, he glides. Yeah. I mean, he's just one of these special players. He's not real big. Frankly, he's probably a better basketball player as far as size than football, but he just is amazing about what he's capable of doing. But if he's not able to play or not able to play much, that certainly is an advantage to Florida. And the big thing with LSU, without getting into the weeds too much of this, their defense is not real good. Frankly, their problems in their secondary, where they've got a lot of injuries. They lost their best defensive tackle a couple of weeks ago. So if Florida has that offense on the field and that lineup that you talked about a few minutes ago, I think Florida could make some hay with this LSU defense. Frankly, so that's going to be the thing for LSU is how motivated are they going to be able to play? Now, look, they've got dudes. Shane and I have talked about this for months. They've got as good a lineup almost as Alabama and Georgia as far as just players. But the thing with LSU is they've got 3 losses, and what do they have to play for is going to be the question. People may not say much about that may not matter, but I think it does. So who plays and how motivated they are, Shane's going to make a big difference in that game.
Yeah, I agree with you about Jaden Daniels. I think he should win the Heisman Trophy. I think he's the best player in America. His running ability, he's one of the best running quarterbacks I've ever seen.
Yes.
He can elude contact. He's the fastest guy on the field usually. If Garrett Nussmeier plays, he's a gunslinger. He's going to take chances. He's a good thrower of the football, but their offense will not be the same. Trust me.
No.
And LSU has serious issues on defense as well. Todd says, which cracks me up, he says, Shane, we need you to get you in the box calling plays. Your creativity, we wouldn't be stopped. Trust me. I make a couple bad calls, y'all be booing the hell out of me. Look, like again, I want to say this again, because a lot of people listen bits and pieces of our show or don't listen to my show. Offense is the least of our problems, people. The least of our problems. You score 36 points, you should win a football game. Can you question play calling? You can question Andy Reid's play calling. Because when a play is ineffective and gets stuffed or doesn't work, everybody's bitching. When a play gets 12 yards, nobody's complaining. You're not going to have every play be successful. I just don't think people understand that. The big one, really in the conference is Ole Miss traveling to Georgia. I just don't. I mean, I like what Ole Miss is doing. I think they're a little bit better on defense, but I just don't see how they can win this game in Athens. I could be wrong, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah. Well, let me say this about the Gators too. People need to look on defense at who they have lost over the last couple of weeks and who is banged up. That has made a difference for them too. But on to Georgia and Ole Miss. Again, this is a night game. It's going to have a lot of people's attention. I mean, I'm with you. I think Georgia wins the game. I do think Ole Miss can give them some problem early on. Now, Ole Miss, people don't realize this sometimes, but Lane Kiffin loves to run the ball, and Junkin is one of the better runners anywhere. But this is going to come down to the Ole Miss defense. Pete Golding, who came from Alabama, they have gotten better, but they still don't have the athletes on defense they need to beat Georgia. Now, what is concerning about Georgia, they did lose one of their better defensive players, Jamon Dumas Johnson, fractured his arm, so he's out for the year. Now, it's not like they don't have depth, because they do. But, Shane, my problem with Georgia is, frankly, is by the end of the year, if these injuries keep going on, even with their depth, if that's going to catch them at the worst possible time, in one way or another, I think they go to Atlanta. I think they're undefeated. But I'm just wondering at some point with the attrition they've had this year, which has been unusual for them, that at some point that doesn't mean they'll lose, but it may put them in a really difficult situation in the second half of the game.
Radware is a family-owned business that prides itself in excellent customer service while providing quality and affordable promotional products and customized apparel. Speaking with our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter Brent Beaird on the Titan Tomorrow hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. Tide says 100%, 36 points, you should win a game, but we do stall on offense. Every offense stalls. I think people just live in la-la land. I think you're going to score on every possession. Every offense in the history of football stalls during a game. Just people. We have to play better defense, and we have to play better special teams.
Yeah.
I would love to play better offense, but I'm fine with the way we're playing offense compared to the other two phases of the game. Mississippi State travels to Aggie Land. Are they going to fire Arnett at Mississippi State? My Mississippi State folks think they are.
Well, let me give you a coaching update from what I've heard this week and this time of year when this stuff goes on. And I'll get to Arnett in a minute. What I've heard this week is Arkansas is going to keep Pittman another year, and this comes from a good source who's close to that program. They just really can't afford to fire him, frankly. And look, I like Pittman. I think he is a good coach. They've got to shore up their offensive line. I mean, you saw them last week. They've got some good players. I mean, KJ Jefferson is unbelievable in a lot of ways. That they're not a great team by any means, but I think he deserves another year. And when I hear he'll get it, I think Jimbo will get another year. When we talked about this, and I'll be brief on it, that a lot of the media there believe that they want to keep Jimbo intact, and if they do, that keeps the roster intact. Because they play Texas next year, maybe the opening game. We don't know yet. And Mississippi State, see, Zach Arnett only has a $4.5 million buyout. Now think about that a minute compared to Jimbo's buyout and some of these other buyouts. I mean, that's chump change, frankly. But they're just wondering if he is in over his head. He changed the offense from the air raid to more of a pro style. And the problem is two of their better players have been out for probably the last 2 or 3 weeks, and that has hurt them considerably. A&M is a better team than they are, probably not by much, but they are, and they'll win the game. So there is a real decision going on now, Shane, about what to do about Arnett. Is do you keep him and let him grow into the job, or do you realize that maybe he is more of a coordinator than a head coach? And there's nothing wrong with that. He's a really good defensive coordinator, but as you know, Shane, sometimes when you get that head coaching job, it's just overwhelming. And it's been a tough year for him, but this is a decision that they'll have to make soon. And I would not be surprised at all if they made a change. Would you?
I think he's gone. I think his biggest mistake was getting rid of the air raid with a kid who was going to be the all-time leading passer in the history of the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah, Will Rogers, yes.
And they can't do anything on offense. He's been hurt, but that was a huge mistake on his part.
It was.
Getting away from that, because they're beyond awful. They may be worse than Vanderbilt on offense right now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Tennessee at Missouri, intriguing game. This is the CBS game. It's kind of a must-win for both. Both teams sit with 2 losses on the year. What you think happens in Columbia, Missouri?
Well, Missouri's played really well. Listen, that group of Brady Cook and Schrader have been, frankly, incredible. Now, one of the things that Georgia did in that game was they really did a good job with Luther Burden. He didn't get much. Frankly, he had a first touchdown, then he had 2 catches for 14 yards. So Missouri's a really good football team. I'll be curious what you think of them next week. Now, Tennessee's strength, again, is their front 7 on defense. And the importance of this game is, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, is the winner of this game very, very well may go to a New Year's Six bowl. And Shane, you think about this: Missouri's never been to one. Tennessee hadn't really done anything in quite a while. So there's frankly a lot more at stake in this game than people may realize.
Yeah, and just think if Missouri loses this game and then they're sitting with 3 losses and then we roll into town. You don't know how people are going to respond.
No, you don't.
Vanderbilt and South Carolina play each other. Nobody's going to care about that game. Brent, the ACC, we were talking about earlier, I think it's a horrible league now with Clemson having a down year. I don't know if you saw this or our listeners saw this, but is this the world we're living in now? So NC State has had 3 straight wins over Miami, Clemson, and Marshall.
Yeah.
They had a big QB transfer, Brennan Armstrong from Virginia. Well, they benched him for a sophomore quarterback named M.J. Morris. He led them to those 3 wins that got them going. He told him he wants to redshirt because he's probably going in the portal. How about that? Did you see that?
Oh, yeah, that's just amazing. The things that you see now that you wouldn't have seen a decade ago, or just it's almost beyond description.
Yeah, but I guarantee you, he has some agent or his family said, "Hey, man, you're a hot commodity now. You came off the bench, led them to 3 straight wins, one over Miami, one over Clemson. We're not going to waste this year, and we're going to go to the portal and see who will pay us." It's nuts, man.
It is
nuts. Dan has a good question here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon. Brent, will there be so many players not to play in bowls? Are they working on that? Will there be so many players not play in bowls? I'm not sure what his question is, but I think you're going to see a ton of kids sitting out.
Yeah, that's basically the question, as I understand it, is will there be more opt-outs than they normally are? And that's possible. Now, the good thing about this is, to me, one of the benefits a year from now of being in the of extending the playoff from 4 teams to 12 teams is you're going to have more of these players thinking, well, I can be in the playoff game, and that will help my value. So I'm going to do that. And so they play longer. So I think that would be one of the benefits. But yeah, we could see that. Well, we could see them opting out, thinking they're going to get into the transfer portal and go somewhere else. So what Shane said about the North Carolina State quarterback, unfortunately, is probably going to be true for a lot of them.
Yep. Let's talk Miami FSU. Before we do that, we got a text on the Titan Mark text line from Jonathan. He says, Shane, in your opinion, which was worse, when Miami did not take a knee and fumbled and lost the game, or how the Gators lost on Saturday? Whew, that's a great question.
Yeah, really is.
I'll answer it this way. They're both horrendous ways to lose games, and it should never happen. And that is strictly on the entire coaching staff to not take care of that situation. I don't know how else to put it. Your thoughts on Florida State, Miami, Brent?
Well, Florida State's more consistent. They're playing better. Now, the problem is, as we mentioned earlier, is how many players are they going to get back? Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson are the two main ones. They're best receivers. Wilson has played this week or practiced this week. Coleman's been a little bit more of a mystery, so we may not know until the actual game time. The problem right now with Miami is the quarterback situation. Tyler Van Dyke has lost his confidence. They have here's a turnover ratio for Miami. They fumbled 12 times and lost 7, which is 101 in college football out of 130-something teams. Miami has also thrown 12 interceptions, which is 119th. So now, Shane, Tyler Van Dyke has thrown 10 picks in the last 4 games. That is that ain't
good.
tell me from a quarterback standpoint that look, Shane, how can you have any confidence if you're doing that? That to me is going to be the main issue for this game. I think Florida State wins. They may win comfortably. I mean, Miami will be very excited about playing. And frankly, I mean, Miami's made some improvements, and we'll go into that as it goes on. They've got a freshman, Emory Williams, who's played a little bit at quarterback. They've got another freshman, Mark Fletcher, at running back, who's done well. Brashad Smith needs some playing time. But I think my question to you is, in understanding the game is, Shane, when you've thrown that many interceptions in a short period of time, what does that do to your psyche?
Well, you're right. I think if he's going to start the game, you got to get him some easy completions right off the bat to get some confidence back. But he's an older guy. You would think that, it sounds like to me, and I have not watched Miami, but if you throw that many interceptions in that few amount of games, it's almost like he may not be comfortable with what's being called.
Yeah.
And forcing stuff. So I saw this on Twitter this morning. I'm going to ask you, I don't know if it was just a joke. Andrew says, is there any truth to Auburn wanting to go to the ACC? Did you see that this morning, Brent?
No, there's no truth to that at all. Look, and I can tell you that real quick. It's just a money situation. The SEC is making like $54 million per team, and with look, with the playoffs coming up, I've seen estimates that within 3 to 5 years, they're making 54 now, that the SEC teams individually would be making per year $100 million per team. Now the ACC is nowhere near that. So no, there is it's a fun kind of rumor to look at, but that's not happening.
All right, Brent, two things before we get you out of here. There's a YouTube, the Talking Gator Ask, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. And I'm going to have you comment on your favorite stadium. He says, Shane, which, if any, SEC stadiums have you never played in? It's a bunch. Which have you never won in? I won in Tuscaloosa. I never won in Knoxville. And I won at Auburn. Did not win at Mississippi State. I won at LSU. But there's a ton of the league, because the league, when I was playing, we didn't go to all the stadiums, because it was just different. But my favorite stadium to play in would be Tiger Stadium. There's nothing like Baton Rouge.
I bet.
Nothing
At
like
night,
that place.
at night, that would have to be incredible. South Carolina's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I never played there.
Yeah, and that's a passionate fan base, say the least. Auburn is incredible in the amount of emotion and noise that comes out of there. But I get asked this question about 2 or 3 times a year on doing segments, and I will still say that the Swamp at night, like the Tennessee game, when they are winning and the fans are behind them, I really don't think there's anything comparable, frankly. And I remember, and we have an open air press box in Gainesville, and I'm curious if this has happened to you, but I remember after the Tennessee game, I went from the press box into the dining hall, or whatever we want to call that, and Shane, I could not hear for about 30 minutes after the Tennessee game. That's how loud it was on that game, which you probably remember.
Yeah, but we got headsets on, so we don't get to hear the whole deal. I will say this: I think LSU, in my opinion, has the most loyal, crazy fan base in all of sports, not football. I'm saying all of sports, because
there's some truth to that.
They packed that place in Omaha for the World Series.
They do.
I was fortunate to go to the NCAA gymnastics championship outside of Dallas and Fort Worth. Mm-hmm. And there must have been maybe 1,000 people there, like general public people and from other schools. There must have been 3,000 LSU people there. I mean, it was crazy for gymnastics. Yeah. So I think they travel better than any fan base out there. All right, last thing, taking our text line. Barbara from Atlanta wants to know, Brent, who's your Heisman winner as of today?
If Jaden Daniels comes back and plays, I would really look at him very closely. The Penix kid out of Washington, I just love him and what he's capable of doing. But again, there's a lot that can change. I never vote until the Monday after the championship games, because so much changes. But Caleb Williams was up there, and he's going down on my list a bit. Frank, I tell you this: if Brock Bowers was healthy and playing the way that he did against Auburn, he would be in my top 3 probably. But I would say right now, Jaden Daniels and Penix would be my my top 2. But I appreciate the question very much.
Yeah, Brent, appreciate your time. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week, bud.
Good, always a pleasure, bud. Take care.
That's Brent Beaird, a college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter. Join us on the Titan Tomorrow hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. Take a quick time out, come back. Got a lot of texts, YouTubes, and Facebooks to get through. You're watching and listening to PodUp Matthews in the Morning. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Campus USA, put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. Dave & Buster's Eat, Drink, Play, Watch. Duffield Home Improvements for your window, siding, and roofing needs. Radware, your local provider of promotional products, uniforms, and apparel. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Radware, F45, Quality Plumbing. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Q Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith understands your joint pain.
It does not surprise me that there are a ton of people out there that's in pain.
That's why Emmitt is such a proponent of QC Kinetics, offering real lasting joint pain relief with non-surgical, all-natural biologic treatments.
Whether it's a joint pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, hip pain, any kind of pain, the body eventually will break down when it's under that much stress.
That stress can cloud your judgment to the point that you'll just say yes to the scalpel or yes to another prescription of pain pills. But maybe it's time for a second opinion from QC Kinetics.
The reason why I would recommend this is because the natural biologics that QC Kinetics is providing you gives your body a chance to naturally heal itself.
Restorative, regenerative solutions are here. Get lasting relief and live your life.
Call QC Kinetics 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Silverback Concrete is a family-led team of heavy concrete specialists that build commercial structures with unrivaled quality. Silverback Concrete, you stand on it, we stand by it. On YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, 941 Low Life says, the season should just end. Nobody wants to play in boring bowls. I disagree with that. I love bowl season. I love watching those games. It's a reward for a lot of schools. I mean, you got to think of the MAC schools, the Ohios, I don't know who's going to win the MAC, but they get to go to a bowl game. It's a great experience. I know fans may not like it, but I think it's great for the players and everybody that's associated with it. So I'm all for the bowls. Greg says, Shane, did any former QBs help recruit you to Florida? No. I'm not quite understand that question, but no. Tonight you got a barn burner in the National Football League. You got the Carolina Panthers playing in Chicago at Soldier Field against the Bears. That'd be a hell of a game. And then a good one. If you want to watch the team that's probably going to upset Florida State in the ACC championship game, the Louisville Cardinals. Watch them. Watch Jeff Brom dial them up. He's pretty good. Chris says he loves bowl season. Perfect match of holiday time and games to watch. Agree 100%. 1966 HBC beers available at Spurs Gridiron Grill, Gator Games in the Swamp, and select retail outlets. Chris American Lager. That's 1966 HBC beer. This Day in Sports brought to you by our good friends at Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. This Day in Sports in 1996, Evander Holyfield upsets Iron Mike Tyson in the 11th round with a knockout in Vegas to regain the WBA heavyweight boxing titles. Only the second boxer after Muhammad Ali to win a heavyweight title 3 times. So that's brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Van Der says, Shane, I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm wondering if you would have breakfast with me on Veterans Day. I've been nice the past 2. You can be mean. It ain't gonna bother me. It's just ridiculous some of the things you say, Van Der, but we appreciate your service. I won't be around to have breakfast though, unfortunately. But Cracker Barrel sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Greg says, nobody has contacted the Pouncey twins to help recruit linemen. Here's what I will say about that. I would bet you a lot of money that if you had offensive guard Joe from Atlanta, Georgia, or wherever, that's being recruited by the University of Florida, and you asked him if he knew anything about the Pouncey twins, I bet you he would have no idea who that is. I'm just saying, y'all are Gator fans and follow the program. These kids nowadays do not watch a whole lot of football. They obviously didn't watch football. I mean, think about it. When the Pounceys played here, there it was 2008. That was what, 15 years ago. These kids were like 1 or 2 years old. And then they probably saw him a little bit in the NFL, but they probably didn't know he went to Florida. It just y'all would be shocked at how people don't know the so-called superstars that play at different universities. I tell a story all the time. I had Emmett Smith talk to one of the high school teams I was coaching when we were getting ready for the playoffs, and nobody even knew who the hell he was. He'd been walking around practice the whole day. Nobody even knew. That's how it is. So anyway, if you missed it, the Gators get a commitment from the 7'6" kid who's from Canada but playing basketball at IMG. He's like 7'6", 300 pounds. It's a big man, tallest teenager in the world, I think they said. Joe on Facebook Live brought to you by Mel Law. Do the bowls align to where to go here? Do the bowls align to the playoffs this year? Meaning, do they have bowls and playoffs? The bowls are, yeah, part of the playoffs. I think I want to say the Cotton Bowl is part of the playoffs, and maybe the Rose Bowl. I don't know. I don't have it in front of me. Andy says no one could pick Emmett out from a lineup. But yeah, but he's the all-time NFL leading rusher, and he's walking around a high school practice, and not one kid knew who he was. And even when you introduced him, they had no idea who he was. Dan says softball signed the #2 player and Gatorade Player of the Year at pitcher for next year, #1 class this year. Tim Walton's on a roll. Yeah, I'm anxious to see these girls play this year. I think remember next year, damn OU rolls into the league. That's not going to be fun at all. Ruse Ogre State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. I really want to thank Brent Beaird for joining us on the Titan MR hotline. And tomorrow's program, we'll have JC. We'll do our Peachland Dental picks. I'm still waiting for a reply from my LSU counterparts on the broadcast to get them on. Andy says Ty Golden loves the big men. Olivier, I guess you pronounce his name, Olivier, will be fun to watch develop. Yeah. He won't be here next year. Was he next year or the following year? I can't even remember. Anyway. All right. Hope everybody has a great Thursday. Got college football, NFL tonight. You got college basketball is in full force. Gators play tomorrow. We'll try to talk a little bit about that. They got the Virginia Cavaliers. Should be a good test. Have a great day, folks. Take care. See you tomorrow.